I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, yeah?
We recently had YouTube review videos for Long Legs and Divorce in the Black, and we got a lot of new subscribers from those two. So welcome to all of those people. Speaking of Divorce in the Black, the new Tyler Perry film on Amazon Prime, this is our fourth Tyler Perry review video.
Yes.
And overwhelmingly, people will say, like, yeah, that movie was terrible. But then you do get the people who don't agree. And on this video, there were several comments saying that basically, like, we're being racist for not liking it and that we don't criticize non-Black movies in the same way. And that's just like fake news. That's not accurate at all. I can provide links to a lot of movies that were not made by Black people that we drag the shit out of. So, so I don't even feel the need to really respond to that, except that if you do some research, you will see that that's not true. The bigger thing I wanted to comment on is what frustrates me about some of the comments related to Tyler Perry films is people making excuses as if, like, me specifically as a Black person should not expect more,
right?
Or as if like Black creatives can't produce quality content. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's what that says when you are making excuses for Tyler Perry, like as if we can't do better.
We're settling for subpar art. And again, I think that, and I said this in our review, I think he's a trailblazer. There's no denying that. And at one point, he was single-handedly kind of reviving Black characters in film that mass audiences were seeing and having access to, but he hasn't grown, and he has no interest in growing and has no passion for cinema, because if you did, you'd see a lot different kind of products from him.
I think people get like their feathers ruffled because they're confusing. You can find something entertaining,
exactly,
and it not be quality. And I've said this before. I will go get a McDonald's cheeseburger, no pickles, no onions. And I will do that sometimes because I just enjoy it. I don't think that is a good burger, a quality burger. I know that I can go get better stuff, but I just sometimes have a taste for it, or it's convenient, right? I'm running errands throughout the day. I have a Zoom call in an hour I got to get home for. The McDonald's drive-thru is right there. I'll watch it or I'll eat it. Not unlike some of these crap movies people like. Sometimes they're easy. They're just on streaming. You can put it on and not pay much attention to. There's nothing wrong with that. You can enjoy this movie and still know that it's not quality, and also have an issue with the person who, like you said, doesn't seem to even respect cinema because he doesn't want to do better. And I just don't know how anyone can argue that specifically Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black is a well-made, well-written film. So
because it definitely is
not quite sure why you're mad. But that's all I wanted to say about that.
And again, yeah, I mean, to me, that's just such a cheap shot to say, like, we're being anti-Black or racist for not liking something that, I don't know. Everybody's opinion is justifiable, but it's like I think we have receipts, but again, it hurts my feelings that somebody would think that, but I don't know. I know my heart. That's it.
Sliding into the restaurant section. So we used to go to Rosalind's Ethiopian restaurant a lot back in the day.
Yeah. Well, back in the day of Groupon.
Yeah, actually, when they were like paper Groupons. But we recently had another visit, and we really enjoy the food.
Yes.
Yeah. So
love that.
I would recommend Rosalind's Ethiopia, and it's in Little Ethiopia, I think is what people refer to this area as, which is in LA, like Fairfax and San Vicente over there.
There's a sign up there's a street sign that calls it Little Ethiopia.
And for reference, it's close to like LACMA.
Shakey's.
There's a Shakey's next door, but like as a like monument reference, there's like the Peterson Automotive Museum's not too far from there. But I want to bring the restaurant up because we went, and it was, I think, a Sunday afternoon or
It
Saturday.
was Sunday. Yes.
And the restaurant wasn't very busy when we walked in, but it was also early-ish, like 5.
They've also remodeled since we were last in there, and I think it looks very nice.
Yeah. And for people who may not be aware, parking seems precarious on that strip, but if you go behind the restaurant in the alley, there is a parking structure that um does have space, so don't be discouraged. Anyway, we had ordered our food, it had arrived, and then another like gay couple walks in and sits right next to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the one, like, they were clearly on a date, and this may have been like maybe their second date. And the one was just acting so rude towards the server and being so stank about the food. And they ordered the same thing we did, which is like, what is it, like for $75?
The king platter,
It's called the Emperor's
the
Platter,
emperor's
I
platter.
think. And it's
Yeah,
basically like all of their dishes in one huge platter. And then,
and then you get a big bowl of injera to.
which is the like the bread that you eat the food with, because you're supposed to eat it like finger food.
Mm-hmm.
And that bread is so damn good.
Yeah.
It's very moist.
Oh, but I love the platter comes with all the fixings on top of a big piece of
A
injera.
layer of that bread, and so then it gets soaked up
Oh my god,
with
it's
all
my
the good
favorite.
juices.
We couldn't even eat it all.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, it's money well spent. And you know, we should probably invite people to go with us next time. But
Invite people who you trust wash their hands. And,
yeah, you have to have clean hands to come eat
mhm.
with us. But the couple who sat next to us, they ordered the same thing, and the one was just being so like rude and stank about all of it, and didn't like the food, and thought this shouldn't be cold and this should be hotter, and didn't like what the server had recommended, even though when he walked in, it appeared that he didn't even know the server, who was an older woman. She's probably like 60.
Yeah.
And he immediately tells her, "You look sexy." And clearly the lady was confused, like, "I don't know why you're telling me this." But she's trying to be nice.
And she she was the only wait staff working, and by the time we left, there were
It
6 or
had
7
gotten busy,
tables.
yeah.
Yeah.
Including a large party that decided to write their order down, and it was very complicated. They wanted all of these substitutions. And this poor lady, her English wasn't even the best. And I heard her say, when the lady gave her the paper, like, "I don't think I understand." Like, I just thought that was so ridiculous. But the point of the story to me is, I just can't imagine, like, when you go on a first or second date and you're trying to make a good impression and you can't control yourself, like, because I would think that one of the bigger red flags when you first meet someone is like them being rude to wait staff.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy and he was not cute enough to have attitude.
I agree
Like,
with that statement. Yes.
he was so rude. Oh, I just can't imagine. That's a huge turnoff to me when people are rude to. Oh, the cat's here.
The cat agrees. She concurs.
She also doesn't like
no
that.
rudity, according to Fantasia.
But speaking of uncomfortable restaurant situations, right before the screening of, I think it was, what did we see at Universal City recently?
Twisters.
Oh, Twisters. Right before the Twisters
How
screening.
can you forget that? Beautiful piece of cinema.
We were like, oh, let's find a restaurant in Studio City to eat in. So we went to this place called Misselli's, which has been around forever.
It's the oldest Italian restaurant in LA, it's advertised as.
And because I used to work over there, like on that street. So I would drive by it all the time and never thought to go in. But we tried to go in, and I have to say, and not to try to ever make things political, but we walk in and the bartender, because they have like a big flat screen, is playing like Fox News and like a correspondent talking about Trump, like very loudly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat down and the server came, that I just said, I can't eat here. I can't. And it's not because I'm anti-Trump per se. It's just, I just don't know that it's smart to, if I were an owner of a restaurant, I would try to keep things as neutral as possible.
Well, you'd think, but
like, why are you playing like Trump giving a speech loudly on Fox News? And yeah, it was not.
Misselli. And now that you say that name out loud, I keep thinking of like biology class and cell structures and mitochondria.
Oh, I'm thinking of
Misselli.
Who's the Boss, because wasn't that Tony Danza's character's name?
Maselli? Was it?
Well, hold on. Let me look it up. Yeah.
Okay,
His
look
name was
at
Tony
you.
Maselli.
Look at
And then Alyssa
you.
Milano, yeah, Samantha Maselli.
Okay,
I can't believe I
I
remember that.
remember Judith Lights and
I know that because I've done Catherine Hellman's hair before. Her character's name was Mona Robinson.
oh, she's dead now.
She is dead.
Yeah.
But so of course I'm like, we have to get up and leave Maselli's.
And we did.
But thankfully we did, because we discovered a restaurant down the street called Fox and Hounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an Irish pub.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so glad. That was also a restaurant I used to drive by every day going to work, and I never went in. But people would talk about it a lot, and I can see why. We walk in, and the server slash bartender was so lovely.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really nice happy hour.
Yes.
And I liked my food well enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got it.
It's like Irish pub bar food, so
Yeah.
it's, like fish and chips.
Had a burger.
I've got like a side of vegetables, and it was literally like the frozen medley that they microwaved. But would I go there again? Absolutely. I really did like that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, there's a restaurant in Pasadena called the Raymond that I went to last week for happy hour. And you wouldn't know by driving by that it's such a cute place with like a nice patio, and it was a little spendy, but I think it'd be a really cute like place to go on a date.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ample street parking. So if you're in Pasadena
And need a date.
and need a place to go get overpriced cocktails, but they were very nice too. Okay. So last week I told the story of how I was on that United flight and the plus size woman didn't want to move, who was like sitting on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a couple of questions about how would I have handled that situation if I were the flight attendant. So then I'm like, yeah, how would I have handled it? And so my immediate answer was I probably would have asked the plus size passenger, like in this instance, because it was the very back row of the plane and there was that, whatever it's called, the galley, or there's a space behind the last seat where like the flight attendants occupy. I probably would have asked to speak with her discreetly in there and explained to her that I'm, assuming that she is not aware of our policy on people who can't fit in one seat. And so, this time we're happy to accommodate her, but it's going to be based on what we have. And if there are no open seats, then she'll have to take the next flight. That's probably how I would have handled it. But then I looked up, like, what are the airline's policies?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently United has one of the more non-friendly policies towards plus size people, because they're basically like, if your ass can't fit in one seat with the armrest down, then you have to pay for a second seat, and you're paying whatever the flight cost like at that moment.
Ooh.
Other airlines are more friendly in that they'll charge you what you paid for your seat.
Mm-hmm.
And then other, like the ones that are, because they're ranked, the site that I looked at, the ones that are considered the most friendly are the ones that will charge you whatever you paid for your seat. But if there are open seats on the flight, they'll give you a refund. So like when you book the flight, you say, I'm a plus size individual who cannot fit into one seat. And they say, thank you for letting us know. This is the cost for 2 seats. And then if the flight is not full on your departing flight or whatever, you can request a refund. So that's considered the optimal scenario. But United, they don't do that. You have to pay you have to pay for 2 seats when you book the flight. And if you don't tell them and you show up, you pay whatever it costs that day. And it doesn't matter if the flight is empty, you can't get a refund. In fact, their policy on United says that you're also responsible for managing your seat. So like if someone sits there, like it's not their problem. Like the wording was really strange.
Oh,
so
okay.
Then I thought, wait, so United has like the most unfriendly policy. So why did they act so like?
Well, it's probably it's an embarrassing situation,
Well, like you said last week, the optics of asking a plus size person to get off a plane is, obviously people are going to get on their phone and record it and blah, blah, blah. But I just thought it was interesting that an airline that's known for being the most cutthroat about it really acted like they didn't know what to do and
Well,
asked me to get on another flight. Like, but yeah, I would have tried to accommodate the person and I wouldn't have charged them because clearly they didn't know. Um, and then I'm sure they can flag people's accounts to say like, although I don't know, they probably can't because imagine you get flagged as plus size and then the next time you book a flight, they ask you like, are you still plus size or
are you still big?
are you still big? So they probably don't do that, but
But I think that the way that they did handle it, from what I recall, was the best possible situation. They found a child that could sit next to her, and neither you nor she had to take a different flight. I mean, we have the capability as humans to problem solve. So I think that it's nice that despite this airline having a cutthroat policy compared to the others, I think it's nice that this flight attendant took the time to try to mitigate in the way that they did.
yeah. Okay, there is something in the sorry to this man section.
Oh God, what I say?
It's me.
Okay, okay.
So I believe, I didn't verify this, but I believe, so in the Divorce in the Black review,
Oh God.
I said in reference to the Bertrand's mother
Mm-hmm.
that, well, we said that she looked like Stacey Lane Matthews as Monique on the Snatch Game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, or she reminds me of the actor from the 40-year-old version, Rhoda
Rhoda
Blank.
blank.
And I think Rhoda Blank commented on that video
Ooh.
and said that it hurt her feelings. So I feel terrible for a couple of reasons. I mean, I know that I'm known for saying people look like this and this and this, and who wants to be told? Like, people tell me I look like people all the time, and it's like, and I always tell people, don't tell people who they look like. But I do it all the time. So when people do it to me, it's like, it is what it is. And sometimes people will comment, like I know I said something about the actor from Eating Out, Rebecca Cochin, that she reminded me of someone and she took it in stride and thought it was funny, which is very generous. But I think I'm mad at myself for saying Rhoda Blank because, and I'm not going to say, I'm upset with myself because I was actually thinking of someone else when I said that. But now I don't want to say who I was actually thinking of. So, because then that just seems mean spirited.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to already, but I don't want to act like I'm sorry because I got caught saying it because I do compare. I'm constantly commenting on who people remind me of and what they look like,
Yeah,
and
I don't think it's always malicious.
I am a
Because
beauty professional, so when I do talk about people's hair and makeup, it's not me just being an asshole. Like this, I work in the beauty space, and I do know what looks good and what does not look good. And but I often will say people remind me of someone, and in this case, like I said, someone who wasn't my first thought, but that was who popped up, and also to compare this person to someone who we had painted in an unflattering way versus like Stacey Lane Matthews, we reference her playing a character.
mm-hmm.
So it was like, to me that sounds harmless. But I do regret saying this person's name, not because I got caught, but mainly because I know that that wasn't the first name that I wanted to say. So I'm mad that I said it and then didn't edit it out. And then the other
But
thing is related to the racist comments people thought we made or being because there were comments like you should re-edit this video, and it's like, well, I can't. I don't know if people don't know this, but when you upload something to YouTube, it's like one and done. If
mm-hmm.
I were to take it down, then those views, that money, it goes away. So I mean, not that I would never do that if I said or did something that's really egregious, but in some instances I do say things and I wish I could remove them.
No, but I recall you saying her name in the video, but I didn't take your I didn't think you were being malicious, so I don't even know if I had a reaction to you saying that.
Again, I'm not going to say who I was actually thinking of, but I think it was I think Rada Blank popped into my head because I was thinking of like hair wrapped up,
Mm-hmm.
and the person who I really wanted to say or was actually thinking of, like I got them mixed up.
Okay.
But so I just hate that I said it. Now it's out there. But I do want to say that Rada Blank wrote and directed and starred in a film called The 40-Year-Old Version
That was both on our top 10
that we
list
both
that
said
year.
was one of the top films. And again, going back to Tyler Perry films and him not wanting, like, he should hire her to make a movie. Like, yeah.
Right.
So, that's probably what I should have said when we were talking about um, how he should hire other Black creatives to support their work, and he can still put his name on it and collect the checks. Rada Blank would be someone who he'd be smart to utilize, but
And again, and also to defend the woman that is playing the character that's causing all of this discussion, nothing against her either. I think that she was hired to play this broadly drawn kind of monstrous woman.
well, and her scene is the most entertaining scene in the
It
movie.
is the most entertaining scene, but then Tyler Perry doesn't do anything to give these poor Black characters any kind of dimension. They're just seen as they're just problems. That's how they seem in this movie, and nothing wrong with how that woman looks or presents. It's just she's presented as something that's like an undesirable character.
Yeah. So there's that. Moving on, films released we didn't cover. Crossing.
I was hoping that you would want to cover this because I did finally catch up with it this week. I missed it in Berlin. It opened one of the sidebars this past year, but it's the third film I think from Levon Aiken. Might be. I haven't looked up how to say his name, but I've seen And Then We Dance, which I also quite liked from 2019. And I thought this was quite moving, a Turkish Georgian production about an older woman that is going on a search for her trans niece. And ends up kind of having a very fulfilling journey on the way as she
Oh yeah, that movie.
becomes introduced to this community. And then there's also, I think, quite a uh, lovely figure named Evram, who's this trans woman that has become a lawyer so that she can defend her fellow citizens. Because, the aunt travels from Georgia to Turkey, to Istanbul. And I think we're probably most accustomed, for those of us that watch a lot of international film, to seeing the German perspective of Turkey as an undesirable place. So I thought it was really interesting to see that this there's a safe haven there. There's a community there of these trans women in Istanbul that are there helping each other out. And it's not dark, dire. And of course, there are characters that have become lost to drugs or have to participate in sex work as a means of survival. But there's also a very powerful message to seeing that isn't the only way and doesn't have to be. But yeah, highly recommend it.
Next, Find Me Falling.
It's a new Netflix film starring Harry Connick Jr., directed by Stelina Kilris. So I did not see this, but I did notice that Harry Connick Jr. was doing the rounds, the publicity rounds, and he was talking about Copycat because he said that Sigourney wouldn't talk to him on the set, and he actually didn't interact with her outside of work until the premiere of the film. And it's like, well, you were playing a man trying to kill her, so. But it's funny because the guy that plays the killer in Copycat, we heard him on a podcast somewhere along the way about a year ago, talking about how he didn't like Sigourney Weaver because she wouldn't speak to him either. It's like, well, you both played men that tried to kill her in this movie, so maybe she wanted to keep that level of tension up. I don't know. Like, it's funny what people hold on to.
Skywalker's A Love Story.
A documentary directed by Jeff Zimbalist and Maria Bukonina. As the description reads, a daring couple travels worldwide to climb the 118-story megatall skyscraper Merdeka 118 in Kuala Lumpur, attempting a bold acrobatic stunt on the spire to salvage both their career and relationship. Okay.
Lastly, Widow Clicquot.
Okay. So this is directed by Thomas Napper, and it's about the Veuve Clicquot champagne farm. I'm suspicious. I didn't see if this is in French, but Haley Bennett stars in it, who is not French. So I feel like those those types of productions usually rub me the wrong way. But I like Haley Bennett well enough. But yeah, that came out.
Projects of interest. So, like 5 days ago, Madonna posted on her Instagram that she's working on her biopic
Yeah,
again.
I saw that.
So, if we remember back in like 2020, she was working with Diablo Cody
Mm-hmm.
on a screenplay, and she was posting pictures with the two of them. And then that project got scrapped, but they had cast Jennifer Garner to play
I,
Madonna.
I think, yeah,
I'm sorry, Julia Garner.
Jennifer Julia Garner. Yeah, but
Although Jennifer Garner, that'd be a fun movie.
that would be that Todd Haynes, Bob Dylan. That's the route she needs to go.
I'm sorry, Julia Garner,
Also, I
who we
think
know from Ozark.
yes,
Yeah.
among several other things. But the screenwriter of Secretary, I believe, also worked on this script. What's her
But
name?
the pictures Madonna shared, it looks like the title of the screenplay is called "Who's That Girl." I'm sure that's tentative because Madonna's already in a movie called "Who's That Girl," so I can't imagine she'd want to have her movie be called that.
Especially since that film is not good.
And speaking of not good, Madonna has directed two films that I have not seen, but I'm told are not good. We or WE
Mhm.
and Filth and Wisdom. Have you seen those?
I have not seen either of those.
Oh,
Filth and Wisdom came out in '08. And I remember just the statement she was making about it felt so pretentious. And WE was at Toronto Film Festival, and that's the premiere of the film about how she loathes hydrangeas. That was that incident.
Well, I might have to make one of those a secret film, I guess.
I've also never seen Guy Ritchie's version of Swept Away,
I have seen that.
but you haven't seen the Lena Wertmuller version though, which is
No,
fantastic.
but I've seen the Madonna version once for sure.
Uh, and then I just we were scrolling through things streaming the other day. I've never seen Shanghai Surprise.
I think a movie. I don't know. I just can't imagine this is going to be great. But
I can't either.
and only because I think it's a skill to do a film like this, and I'm assuming set it in a particular era.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
if Julia Garner's doing it, it'd be '80s Madonna.
right, but I think Julia Garner is a strong actor, and who knows? I don't know.
I don't know.
Of course, I would be anxious to see it.
Again, I'm a Madonna fan. I don't like where things have gone, but but I don't know. I don't have high hopes for that at all.
Next, Veteran.
Oh yeah, so Michael Mann getting up there in age and all of a sudden wants to work a lot because he just did the Ferrari film. Apparently working on. He wrote a novelized sequel to Heat, and apparently he's going to film that. And now he just announced he's going to remake this 2015 South Korean crime comedy called Veteran. Hats off to you. Black hats off to you, man.
Last week or this past week on Patreon, we reviewed the documentary The Celluloid Closet and the Werner Herzog film Strojek. So people can go there to check those out. Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. The actor James B. Sikking died, and I know him as playing Doogie Howser's dad on Doogie Howser
Oh,
MD.
yes.
But he was also on Hill Street Blues, which I remember from being a kid. Yeah, he died. He was 90.
Damn.
So he lived a long life. Of course, Bob Newhart.
Yep.
Who, I mean, has been around forever. I remember the Bob Newhart show.
Same.
Like watching reruns when I was a kid.
Daryl and my other brother Daryl.
But I don't know that I remember, like, he's in films.
Yeah.
And I've seen In and Out. Oh, in Elf, he plays the...
Yes, he's an elf.
He's like, isn't he Will Ferrell's boss, like in Elfland or something? Yes. But of course, he's Hollywood royalty. I'm not familiar with this actor, Cheng Pei-pei.
Pei-pei Cheng?
Pei-pei Cheng?
Yeah, she's in all kind. Well, she's 77. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You saw her in Nikki Caro's, I thought, not very good version of Mulan. She's also in a really interesting film with Ben Whishaw called Lilting, a gay film. But yeah, she's dead.
And lastly, Clint Eastwood's longtime partner died. And when I saw this and the image they showed, I thought it said his daughter because she is 33 years younger than
Well, yeah,
him.
because what is he, 90
He's
now?
94 and she
Ugh.
was 61.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Imagine like his significantly younger wife dies before him. So I'm sure that's hard.
Yeah, well, and, you know, after a while, he stopped running through them because there was Sandra Locke and Francis Fisher, and yeah.
And speaking of deaths, we know last week Shannon Doherty died.
Yes, she
And this
did.
week's secret film was my choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose the 1988 American teen black comedy Heathers, starring Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, and Shannon Doherty.
Mm-hmm.
What is Heathers about, you ask? At Westerberg High, where cliques rule, jocks dominate, and all the popular girls are named Heather. It's going to take a Veronica and a mysterious new kid to give teen angst a body count. My relationship to this film is that on season 3 of RuPaul's Drag Race, 4 of the queens called themselves the Heathers, and they were the mean girls.
Which drove me crazy, and it made me dislike all of them.
But I had no idea what this movie was. You had seen it before.
Uh-huh. Yeah, as a kid with my dad.
Which I find funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea what to expect with this movie. Because I just said, like, oh, I think you suggested it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So I didn't even read about this movie. I thought this was going to be like the original Mean Girls, which to some degree it is. But
Sure.
it's definitely darker than I expected.
More jawbreaker maybe than Mean Girls.
But yeah, but to tell the full story, so this clique called the Heathers, it's comprised of 4 girls. 3 of them are named Heather, and then the one Veronica. So Veronica's played by Winona Ryder. She's the star. And we see that she's part of this clique of like mean popular girls, but she's really not feeling it. It's just like she kind of got like, how do you say it? Like involved with them.
Yeah. Well, she makes it seem like this is the only logical way for her to survive high school.
Right. So she's just surviving as part of this clique. And Christian Slater plays this new kid who's definitely like not interested in these popular girls.
Mm-hmm.
And Winona starts to really hate her clique, which culminates in her going to a college party
Mm-hmm.
with the main Heather,
Kim Walker, who died very young.
And there's an incident where like Winona's almost sexually assaulted. She wants to go home. Heather doesn't want to take her home and gets mad at her. And Winona is pissed. So she tells Christian Slater and says, like, we should get back at her. Why don't we go to her house and like, she's going to be hungover. So why don't we put like milk in her orange juice to make her vomit? And Christian Slater's like, oh, we can give her Drano.
Yeah.
And Winona says,
That'll kill her.
that'll kill her. We don't want to do that. But guess what they do? Christian hands her a cup of Drano and this dummy drinks it.
Mm-hmm.
So that main Heather dies. And of course they start to spiral, but then they realize like we can set it up like a suicide. But then the suicide does work in the sense that
People
Christian and
believe it.
Winona are not, implicated in the murder of this young lady. However, everyone starts to like sympathize with this mean girl. So she's almost like a saint.
A martyr.
Or a martyr. Yeah. Then there are 2 jocks who are like not nice, and Christian and Winona decide they're going to kill them by making it look like a suicide between 2 closeted lovers.
And they do that because they spread a rumor about Winona filleting them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also going to kill another Heather, Shannon Doherty's character, but that falls through. So then Winona realizes like, this is crazy. We need to stop. But then we see that Christian is like a full-blown sociopath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we can get into his background, but his ultimate plan is he wants to blow up the school, specifically during a pep rally where everyone's crammed into the multi-purpose room. So he puts like a bomb underneath the multi-purpose room. Winona does stop him and lure him. Like she stops the bomb, but then we see that he has an IED on him. Like he strapped a bomb on his ass. He blows himself up, and then she survives, and we can see that now she has turned a new leaf, and she's going to take control and be the person she should be. I don't, the
I
end.
guess, yeah.
Um, did I like this movie? I can see why it's like a cult classic, and I'm sure for 1988 this was considered really edgy, and I can see why I can see that other films were inspired by this.
Hmm.
I just wasn't feeling it.
It's okay. I think it's provocative in a way, but watching it in 2024 feels like, whoa, what the world became. And I think that in my mind now, watching it feels less provocative and just kind of depressing. But and I think it's lacking a little bit of something, especially in the third act, that to keep me invested in these characters. Although I think Winona is fun and quite beautiful.
Whomever wrote it, I mean, it's a smart script, and I think that person has good comedy skills. It just, I don't know, it like
Daniel Waters,
there are moments, like it does feel smart, and there are moments when it is funny,
inspired even, yeah.
but I wish it were like,
It's not dark enough in a
well,
way.
it's not funny enough to me, and it's also like specifically Christian Slater's character. He's not a very interesting sociopath.
Jason JD.
His background is that his dad is this rich. Well, first of all, they're in Ohio, which
Hmm.
the vibe of the film, I swear, for the
It
entire
feel
time, I thought it was like Southern
it
California
feels LA, yeah.
until someone says we're in Ohio.
Hmm.
But Christian Slater's dad is like this successful, like r- real estate developer, and we see that he and his son have a very disconnected relationship. We also find out that Christian Slater really misses his mom, who committed suicide by going into one of the buildings his dad was imploding. And then we see during the course of this film that the dad is really obsessed about demolishing another building.
Hmm.
So Christian clearly, like, pretty traumatic experience knowing that your mom killed herself, and then you have this dad who's obsessed with destruction. So I felt like it was like, okay, well, I guess that would explain why Christian Slater doesn't feel so concerned about killing people. But I don't know, Winona and Christian are so, like, I really like them together and on screen, and I just wish that their situation were more interesting.
I almost wish it felt more madcap, like when they kill the two jocks. Their chemistry really reminds me of a. She references Bonnie and Clyde in the film, but a movie called Gun Crazy. About this kind of this woman that leads this man astray into a life of crime, and they go on a killing spree, which of course was remade with Drew Barrymore as Mad Love, and I guess Drew Barrymore auditioned for a role in this film. But I don't know. There's just something about. I feel maybe it's just me feeling completely desensitized to the subject matter, but by the end, I felt nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna start going through my notes. So there's one of the Heathers, because the main Heather, that actor's name is,
Kim, Heather Chandler, Kim Walker.
and then the second Heather is played by Shannon Doherty, and the third Heather is played by Lisanne Falk, I think.
Yes. Hmm.
That lady looked like someone's mom. Didn't
Well,
she look elderly? She's
well,
beautiful,
I
but
she's beautiful and gray hair girl. I read that she lied about her age because she was
she
23 at the time.
she looks like she could be one of the characters' moms.
Hmm.
Specifically Winona and,
She looks
well,
like a mature woman. Yeah.
yeah, the other three, like the other two Heathers plus Winona, look like all like legitimate high school students. Then you have this girl, this lady
Hmm.
in the mix. um, oh, so they're not nice girls. They're playing, the opening of the film is they're playing croquet in this beautiful yard. Like it looks like they're in a mansion. And those girls step on the flowers, and then we realize that that's Winona's house, like her parents' house. But
Who eat pate outside every day.
I mean, I can see that probably Mean Girls was very much inspired by Heathers, but we see that the Heathers are like during lunch in the cafeteria, kind of walking around judging people, and they like to do this thing where they ask people questions. But before they do that, they force Winona to give a note to this larger student who they're calling Martha Dump Truck.
Yeah, Martha Dunstock. Yeah.
And they give her a note that we don't ever see it, but we can assume that the note was supposed to be from like the head, like football like quarterback or something,
Mm-hmm.
like the hot jock in school. And that poor girl goes over there and gives him the note. Like she really thought that he was into her. I felt so bad for
Yeah,
Martha.
that was cool.
Christian Slater, God, he has a great voice and a great look. Like I can see why he was a big deal.
And he was doing a Jack Nicholson impression.
God, you just can't. And then the way he squints, he looks like he just looks like he needs his glasses.
Mm-hmm.
It really does work. We see that the jocks, there are these like the two dumb jocks who end up getting killed. They're seniors and they're just idiots, but they don't like that Christian Slater's getting some attention. So they get up to harass him. And what does Christian Slater do? This fool pulls out a real gun that
Yeah.
has blank bullets and pretends to shoot them. And then the next conversation is we see the principal with some of the staff. No, we hear someone say
Winona.
that they're not going to expel him. He's just going to get suspended for a few days. And I just thought, wow,
Wow, the world has changed.
Yeah.
That just seems unreal. In fact, when he pulled the gun out, again, I haven't seen this in years and years and years. When he pulled the gun out, I thought it was a fantasy sequence.
No, this fool really did shoot two blanks at these students at school. Oh gosh, there's a scene where Winona's on her way to a party, but she stops to get snacks,
Mm-hmm.
and Christian Slater's there, but she goes to get corn nuts,
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't thought about corn nuts in so long, but I hate corn nuts. I
do
think that's the
too.
worst snack. Like I'm sure dentists hate it. It just they feel like they're gonna break your teeth in half.
I never liked those, thankfully.
Looking at Christian Slater, he reminded me of, the drag queen Aquaria
Mm-hmm.
out of drag. That's who I kept seeing when I looked at
Okay.
him. Okay, some funny things. Winona frantically writing in her journal.
Her journal writing.
It is funny.
Girl, you are using up too much space on the paper.
Really is.
Like,
I thought,
how
it felt like something out of Strangers with Candy.
Well, and then she was on the very last episode of that show.
Yeah, and then she won.
Fran. Yeah, that doesn't. And the shoulder pads, my God.
I found a scene. So after Winona introduces herself to Christian in the lunchroom, they clearly have a little connection. And then we see her frantically writing in her journal because she's pissed at one of the Heathers. And then who pops up, like climbs through her window? Christian Slater. And then all of a sudden we see that they've had sex in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Like they played strip croquet. That felt kind of jarring.
I haven't thought of croquet in a very long time.
When they decide to poison that first Heather, and Winona's like, well, we're not going to give her Drano. Why don't we I should mention the writing in this movie. It's like they invented a new language because they're saying a lot of shit that I'm assuming they sort of created in this film.
You thought it was very fetch?
It was interesting.
How very.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see people back then trying to be cute, like mimicking these characters.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'm saying that because they try to hawk loogies into her drink, but they don't call it that. They call it something else. But after trying to hawk loogies, what do they start doing? Kissing. I thought that was so gross.
I mean, they are teenagers. They're kind of gross.
And then they poison the bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So Christian thinks Winona would be good at writing the suicide note because she knows their penmanship. But a scene that blew me away is the suicide note. I guess it's like the English teacher at school.
She's smoking a cigarette and being like, I love that she used the correct use of myriad.
Yes. But then she's passing the suicide note around to the students to like.
Oh, that's the counselor, Penelope Milford.
Oh, that's the counselor, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Of course, the movie about high school girls, there's some reference to bulimia. And so Shannon Doherty's character apparently is supposed to be bulimic. But we see her at one point in the locker room going at it with some chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was funny. Swallowing a drumstick in the middle of the locker room while people are trying to
throwing the bones over her head. I don't care anymore. Shannon Doherty. It's funny. After having watched Lisa Frankenstein, Catherine Newton's styling in Lisa Frankenstein was giving me Shannon Doherty.
Oh yeah,
I wish I
for
had
sure.
thought of that reference when we reviewed it.
Did Christian Slater's the actor playing his dad? Did he remind you of someone?
Um,
I thought that dad looked just like John Kerry
oh my God, John
before he
Kerry.
got Botox.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that. I was wondering about his hair. I thought that was interesting looking.
At the first Heather's funeral, someone says, "Dear Jesus, why did you have to kill such a hot snatch?" What? And then one of the Heathers, I think it's the main Heather, is telling Shannon, like, please come with me. We're gonna go to this thing with the two jocks.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I'm not going because they're probably just gonna get drunk and take us cow tipping. And the girl's like, no, I promise they won't do that. And what do? Cow tipping.
Cow tipping. Luckily, I never experienced that firsthand.
When they decide to kill the jocks, Christian Slater's plan is to make it seem like they're both closeted homosexuals. And then he says, oh, to seal the deal, I'm going to bring some homosexual artifacts, which include a picture of Joan Crawford,
A postcard, yeah.
a postcard. What else? Mineral water.
Evian water. The two scenes that stuck out to me from a kid is the Evian water and Heather Chandler spitting at the mirror after she gives that guy head at the college party.
Oh yeah, yeah. Apparently, mineral water makes you a homosexual.
But
Also, the use of the F slur is
it's heavy.
heavy in this
Heavy,
movie.
heavy. In fact, we had just rewatched the Celluloid Closet, and they include a clip from this in there.
The scene where they kill the jocks is that they lure them. Winona lures them to the forest under the pretense of having sex, and that's how she gets them to get undressed. And then Christian Slater pops up, and each of them shoot one of the jocks.
Mm-hmm.
But then Winona doesn't shoot her jock, so he runs away. And then we get what I thought was kind of a silly scene because then Christian Slater has to chase this jock down,
Who runs back to
who ends up running back to the scene of the crime. I thought that was so stupid.
I mean, his jock, and they're used to running around in circles. So,
but also, how did I don't know how Christian Slater caught up to a jock. This guy is a runner. How did he catch him?
I feel like there could have been some tweaks that could have made this a lot stronger. But Winona has this moment where she's telling Christian Slater that she's brilliant. Basically, she's a genius IQ. But it's like, girl, you let yourself get caught up with these dumb blonde girls. Did we see any black women in this movie? There's a couple, I remember a black student in the background on some committee doing something, but there's no black women. You let yourself get caught up with these dumb bimbos, these bitchy bimbos, and then this psychopath. You're a follower.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, the messaging of this sort of smart, because the other thing is Winona her family appears to be rich as well.
And I found myself having a hard time sympathizing with her because of that as well. It's like, you are filthy rich.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you're in Ohio.
And smart. So yeah, how did you get manipulated by these bitchy girls and this sociopath?
What else doesn't work for me is they are using Moby Dick as the text to signify angsty teens. They wanted to use Catcher in the Rye, but Salinger wouldn't allow that to happen. So they use Moby Dick because, of course, it's in the public realm. You couldn't find another text about or switch it up. Like for the gays, they should have used Billy Budd.
But I'm sure that that's part of the messaging of the movie is how easy it is for people to get sort of wrapped up in nonsense.
Oh yeah, and in what appeals to the public opinion and mass hysteria. It opens and closes with cover of Que Sera Sera, the Doris Day standard, who apparently wouldn't let her song be used in rated R movies. So we get two covers. One by the end credits, Sly and the Family Stone cover of Que Sera Sera, I think is really interesting.
The two jocks who are killed, but it's made to seem like a lover's suicide pact. They have their funerals together, like their caskets are next to each other, like they were like a couple. And then the dad of one of them is crying, like, my son's homosexual and I love him. I love my gay son.
He's like, I love my dead gay son.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, there are moments.
At one point, Winona writes in her journal, are we going to prom or to hell? Poor Martha Dump Truck. She tries to kill herself at one point by like running into traffic.
With
Well,
a
not
note.
running, like slowly walking into
Girl,
traffic.
this is not the way to do
But
it.
of course, she doesn't die.
Oh, I also really like Betty Finn, uh,
Who's she?
Winona's old friends that she threw off to be popular. Um, who is played by Renee Estevez, who is the daughter of
Emilio?
Martin Sheen, sister of Emilio
Oh,
and Charlie Sheen. Yeah, that's I thought she was kind of cute and sweet, Betty Finn.
there's a radio show called Hot Probs where people call in looking for advice.
Hmm.
Oh gosh, there's a scene because Winona, I feel like the scenes with her parents could have been better.
Yeah, they're lacking something.
Well, they're kind of repetitive because we get her sitting with her parents, and then the dad says something, and then she goes, "Oh, like, why am I smoking? Why am I doing this? Because you're an idiot, dad. Ha ha. The pate is great, but I gotta go." And then at one point, she's arguing with them about what teenagers want because the mom's concerned about all the suicides. So
Mhm.
what does Winona do? Fake a suicide. She goes in her room and hangs herself, and then the mom starts crying like, "I'm sorry, I should have let you go to the mall that one day or something
Get that
crazy."
job at the mall.
Yeah, I don't. I feel
Yeah,
like
it's kind of like when the Heather calls into that radio station you mentioned, and Winona and Shannon Doherty are listening. It's like there's nothing. They're like, we know that she knows we listen to this, but there's nothing striking or revelatory about that moment.
I think that my biggest issue is like I wonder if I would have enjoyed the movie more if we didn't even have like focus on the Heathers as much and have it just be about these two outcasts who
And
kind
make
of take things way too far.
and make it like Gus Van Sant's elephant.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
But but I think it just feels so random. Like, oh, Christian's just like a sociopath, and he wasn't that interesting to me.
Yeah.
So when he gets to the school on Friday, when they have the pep rally and everyone's in the multi-purpose room, and Winona realizes that he has put a bomb underneath, then they have a little showdown. She shoots off his middle finger.
Hmm. I like that, and I also liked when he blows up. It lights her cigarette.
That's a funny shot
That's a
because
funny
she's
shot.
all blown out and dusty with her cigarette lit. But before that, Christian says, because I thought kind of maybe the most powerful moment is he says something to the effect of the only place that different social types can get along is in heaven. So I'm assuming that was his MO for trying to commit this terrorist act, was he thinks that things would be better off if all these people were dead. And again, that's really dark.
Hmm.
But the way, excuse me, the way it's presented just kind of felt like, okay, yeah, he's doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. It is it again. I just felt very flat at the
The
end.
final shot of the movie is Martha Dump Truck is in a wheelchair because of course, she got injured trying to kill herself, and Winona walks up to her and says, "Hey, um, I know you don't have a date for prom. Do you want to just hang out and order takeout and watch new movies or something?"
Hmm.
And then and then Martha gets excited, and we see them sort of walking off together. Um, yeah, I mean that's all I have to say about this movie.
I found interesting. It was shot by Francis Kenny, who's a white man, but shot an awful lot of black films, like New Jack City, one of the house parties, Class Act,
Oh,
uh, How High, the first Kingdom Come. Among many, a thin line between love and hate. Jason's Lyric. I mean, that's a crazy resume to me.
oh yeah.
And a Nicholas Rogue film, Cold Heaven. But anyway, yeah, it's clearly a cult classic that could not be made the way it was, which is, I guess, a good thing. But I don't know, like, yeah, I don't like it or love it, but it's
Oh,
fine.
lastly, I mean, I chose this film because of Shannon Doherty, but her character, she's cute. She doesn't have a lot to do.
No, and I think
Um,
it's because of this movie that Tori Spelling recommended her to her father.
for Beverly Hills
Hmm.
90210.
Hmm.
Yeah. But she looks really cute in
I
it.
mean, I'd much rather rewatch Heathers than Mallrats.
I don't think I've seen
I
Mallrats.
I don't really like Kevin Smith.
Is that the movie where they kind of coined the like Valley talk?
No,
Oh,
I
that's
think
not it.
that's mid '90s. I think we already had that.
Oh, okay.
The, remember, yeah, Valley Girl thing. That was '80s that term came about.
Noted. Well, what do we have coming this week? I know we're going to see Deadpool Wolverine tomorrow.
Be Still My Heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. There's a couple other things I think, aren't there?
Well, I guess we'll find out. Anything else?
Oh, the new Bette Midler movie.
Oh,
And a Kit Harington film.
oh, The Beast Within.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of interested in that one.
I'm too. I need to make you watch him in that terrible Xavier Dolan film sometime. But yeah.
Hmm. All right. Well, ta-ta for now.